A estas alturas ya no hay ninguna duda de que la prevención es la mejor medicina para los problemas de comportamiento, para la agresividad canina y evidentemente para las mordeduras. Aunque ya sabemos que no todas las situaciones pueden controlarse, lo que hacemos desde antes de que un perro entre en nuestras vidas tiene un peso crucial tanto en el desarrollo como en la conducta como en el bienestar de nuestros compañeros perrunos. En su paso por nuestro programa Diálogos Inmab, Ecos de Conciencia, la entrenadora canina experta en comportamiento Linda Scroggins nos proporcionó muchísima información sobre todo lo que ella sabe y conoce y todas sus experiencias relacionadas precisamente con todos estos temas, con el entrenamiento, con la prevención y con cómo el manejo desde un inicio es fundamental para que los problemas de comportamiento puedan no llegar a ciertos niveles que a todos nos gustaría evitar. Así que hemos condensado todas sus experiencias y conocimientos sobre este tema para sacarlos de toda la entrevista larga de Ecos de Conciencia y meterlo en este capítulo de la lista específica sobre entrenamiento canino, manejo y prevención. Así que si alguna vez te has preguntado ¿cuándo hay que empezar a preocuparse por el entrenamiento de nuestros perros? ¿Y qué hacer y a quién acudir cuando las cosas parece que se complican? Sin duda, este es tu vídeo. Dentro vídeo.
Could you start by telling us a little bit about your background and what brought you to dog training?
Yes, I've had two paths. My background is in pediatric nursing, and I still maintain a license as a registered nurse. So I have many years of working with children. And I've always been a dog lover. And my journey started as a volunteer at my local animal shelter. And what we found was dogs who have a little bit of training are more likely to be adopted. And that really grew my interest in dog training, which is what I wanted to do. And I went through programs and education to become a certified dog trainer. But what I found is that the need in the community was someone to work with dogs that have behavior problems. The number of those dogs surprised me. And the need surprised me. The critical and urgent need surprised me. So I went through further education to become a dog behavior consultant to work with those families. And so I combined both of those paths because when you work with a dog that has behavior problems, you're truly working with the whole family, not just the dog and not just one member of the family. And often those families include children, which can make behavior problems more critical or more urgent.
How do you, think early intervention, it's like a key component of this, whole
Yes.
training thing?
Yes, it is a key component. And I was at a class, teaching a class, and I had my dog there to use as an example. And he was showing behaviors that he knew. He was probably about 4 years old at the time. And someone asked, how long did it take him to learn that? And I said, well, he's 4 years old. So he's been learning it for 4 years. Dog training is not something that just happens in a day. We can think about skills we want to teach our dog, but our relationship with our dog and our dog's social behavior and community acceptable, polite behavior happens on a daily basis. We like to say that dogs are learning all of the time. So when you have a new puppy, actually, training can start before you bring a new puppy home, and you can prepare the environment for the puppy, which will help train the puppy. But when you bring a new dog home, it should start at day one. And it may not look like what we think it's going to look like. It's not teaching a dog how to sit or how to shake hands or how to walk by your side, but it is how to exist in their environment in a way that is going to be comfortable for the people. Here's my space. Here's where you're safe. Here's where you cannot go. Training begins from the moment we bring a dog into our home. It's never too early. I always like everyone to know that it's never too early to call a dog trainer.
What you just said is so incredible. Like it's an ongoing thing, right? So
Yes.
Are there actually different stages?
There definitely are. Just like in children, the task that young dogs and adolescent dogs and adult dogs need to learn are different. Just like in children, we have milestones. We may have a milestone that they're going to crawl, and then they're going to walk, and then they're going to speak. It's the same way with the dogs. So the task or milestones for a young puppy are going to be very different. And so that training will look very different. For a young puppy, and we now have a puppy in my family who is about 5 months old, and the task for a young puppy is to learn what's socially acceptable. It's not acceptable to bite. It's not acceptable to put your teeth on skin. You need to learn where to go to the bathroom. Those are things that young puppies need to learn. And the biggest thing is socialization. What is in my world? What is in my environment? Should I be afraid of it? Should I not be afraid of it? Can I explore it? Should I not explore it? Can I go say hello? Or should I not go say hello? Those are the tasks for a very young puppy. And then also we need to understand their development is that they can only pay attention for maybe 2 minutes. And we have to incorporate that into training. And then they may have to play and they have to nap. Sometimes we underestimate the amount of sleep that a young puppy needs. And remember, those brains are growing. And so we have to tailor the training to that development. With an adolescent dog, one of my favorite life stages in adolescence, but one that will drive you crazy. I remember I had a Great Dane who was doing wonderful with training. She knew many things. She was about 7 months old. She was outside in my backyard. I called her to come in, something we did all the time, and she would come running to get her treat. I called her to come in. She looked me right in the eye, and she went and stood behind the bushes in my yard. And she decided that day, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to listen to that. But I have to understand that that's normal adolescent behavior. And so how am I going to deal with that? I'm not going to be angry or yell at her or scold her. I'm going to adapt what I do, which was to take my treats out to her, give her another chance, do what she's capable of doing, which was come to me and then we'll go in together. So those adolescents, they act like they've never learned anything. And I tell owners, keep training through that stage. They will come out on the other end a wonderful adult dog if you stick with it. And then adult dogs. So many people adopt dogs that are adults, and they may have other things to consider. If it's a senior dog, you may have to consider losing their senses like hearing and vision, or they may have chronic pain. And all of those developmental things need to be incorporated into a training plan.
When would you say this concept of early intervention or this puppy training has passed and you need something else, like a more specific training or instruction or something?
It's really depends on the individual situation. Not everybody enjoys training. Not everybody is capable of doing the same trainings. People may have physical limitations. So if you're not being successful, if you're being frustrated, and if you feel like you're not bonding with your dog, then it's time to call a professional trainer. Again, it can never be too early. If you see any signs that concern you or make you nervous, if you see a behavior in your dog and you think, uh-oh, or you think, what was that? Was that normal that I just saw, or was that not normal? I'm not sure. Should I be concerned? When you get those feelings, then you should call a trainer to help assess if there's a problem or if there's not a problem.
So what would you say are those typical behavioral issues that people say, it's out of my control?
Yes.
What about that?
With young puppies, it's biting. It's biting and chewing. That's how they explore their world, is through biting, but it hurts. Young puppies have very, very sharp teeth, and they have to learn what's acceptable. So biting is a big one. House training is another one. And I will tell you that frustration with house training is an area I see that I'm always concerned about, because it can lead to owner frustration, and it can lead to somebody losing patience with a dog and punishing a dog for something a dog should not be punished for. So house training and biting are the number 2 concerns that owners of young puppies have. Those are at the top, and those are both where you can use some professional advice. And what I'm going to do is to come in and evaluate to say, is this normal developmental behavior or is it not? And I have been, along with other behavior consultants, called to evaluate puppies as young as 10 or 11 or 12 weeks to see if their behavior is normal. And we have seen behaviors in puppies that young that we Normal is a difficult word. It's open for interpretation, and there is a broad spectrum of what normal can be. But I have seen behaviors in very young puppies that I would define as falling outside of the normal. One of those was an incidence of severe resource guarding in a puppy that was only 9 or 10 weeks old. Now, that can depend on many things. It can depend on the breed of the dog. It can depend on the background of the dog. So it really takes a professional to evaluate to see if that's normal or not normal. And then you may have dogs like toy breeds, toy poodles, Shih Tzus that are very challenging to house train. And so it can be that you feel it's not normal, but for that breed, it may be normal. Whereas you may have a dog like a German Shepherd who learns to be house trained in 2 months' time and they're done. There may be a tiny puppy that will take 5 or 6 months at that point. So, but the biting and the house training, those are the two big ones for young puppies.
Yeah, there are so many, dog trainers, dog whisperers.
Yes, so many.
So many different professionals,
Yes.
and strategies. So how would you say like this knowledge in, dog mental health status or shape
Yes.
specifically, impact your work?
So I've always trained all of my dogs since I was very young. I would take my dogs to classes. So I have been exposed to many different types of training, even before I was a dog trainer. And I had a lovely, tiny little Shih Tzu named Mabel years ago, and I took her to a dog training class. And one of the exercises in the class was for dogs to be able to do a stay. So when we tell a dog to stay, it means stay there, don't move. No matter what happens, you must stay here. We were working on that, and the trainer said they must be able to stay with distractions. Now, my dog weighed 6 pounds. She was tiny, this big. And he brought a big, big vacuum around that was turned on, that was sucking, was very loud, and he walked past all of the dogs. My dog could not hold her stay. She was terrified, and she jumped into my arms. The dog trainer told me that dog should have been able to hold that stay. And at that time, I thought, that does not sound right to me, and it hurt my heart. Why would I want my dog to do that? And so through experiences like that, I began thinking about what's the appropriate way to train a dog. And then I am so lucky that I had people come into my life whose paths I crossed, who taught me and that I learned from. And when I was volunteering at that shelter where I began my dog training journey, there was a trainer there who was also a human psychologist. There's a lot of human psychologists who work in dog training. She was the first one who told me about force-free training, and she explained it from a background of psychology, and it made sense to me. She said, this is a living, sentient being who can learn. They can also be afraid, and they can also react. And here's why we train dogs with force-free training. And it clicked with me. I tend to be an empathetic person with people and with animals, and it clicked with me that this was a better way. So I set about learning about that method of training. Force-free training means that we train without pain, so that we don't use pinch collars or choke collars or shock, that we try to train without fear, although fear can be in the hands of the learner, but we try to train without fear. We try to train without punishment. So we do reward-based training based on the education philosophy and principles of learning. So I learned about force-free training that way. And then what I learned is the people I considered experts, so the people who had college degrees and veterinary medical degrees, also trained this way. They said, this is how you should train dogs. And so I considered they were the experts. They should know what they were talking about. And that really began my dive into force-free training. There's a woman named Karen Pryor, who, if you follow dog behavior, dog training, you will know. And she was one of the early pioneers in this kind of training. She brought it over from the training of sea mammals that she worked with, dolphins and whales in Hawaii. And she thought, if we're training other animals, why am I not training my dog this way? And it's training that's set up to meet the learner's needs. It's humane, it's sympathetic, and it works. That's the important thing, because so many people will say, I've tried it and it just doesn't work. It does work. If you've tried it and you feel like it doesn't work, then consult a professional, because I guarantee you that it will work.
That's so amazing. So in that sense, you have had like a role training others, right? So do you think
Yes,
there's
yes.
like a tendency, like we can say this is the standard now?
No, I wish
Not
it
yet.
was. Not yet, but it's getting much closer than it used to be. It is getting much closer than it used to be. Sometimes people will want immediate results, and I understand that. And there's many ways to get immediate results. And in one of my books, I use an example of a teacher and a child. I raised 4 boys, and so I know how boys are. And they're all now wonderful adults. But if I'm a teacher and I have a young boy in a classroom who continues to act up. So he's showing behavior that's not acceptable in that situation. He's disrupting the class, might be impacting my quality of life as a teacher. I need that child to sit quietly and to listen so that he can learn and so everyone can learn. There's a multitude of ways I can address that problem. One of those ways is I can come in and I can stare at him and I can shout at him, and maybe I'll shake him by the shoulders and he might sit down and be quiet. But maybe he won't. So what happens if he doesn't? Do I shake him harder? Do I hit him? Do I have someone else come in and take care of him? Again, he may sit down and be quiet, but for how long? And has he learned, or is he behaving that way because he's afraid? And if he's afraid, what's he going to do when he's outside of that classroom? What is he going to do when he just cannot take anymore? And he may, get mad and start yelling at me. I compare that to some types of dog training that want immediate results. I can subdue your dog. I have worked with dogs of all sizes. I have owned dogs of all sizes, and I'm pretty confident in my physical ability to be able to handle a dog. I used to walk 2 of my dogs that equaled about 240 pounds together on a leash. I could hold those dogs still if I needed to. So if you said, this dog is not acting this way, I can come in and I can manhandle that dog. I can hold the dog. I can push him to the ground. I can squeeze him until he stops that behavior. It doesn't mean he has learned anything. And I will not blame that dog if he jumps up and bites me because I've scared him to death. So sometimes in the need to get immediate results, we may revert to methods that are not the best for the person or for the animal, because I'll tell you, I've worked with many people who have gone through many types of training before they called me, and people who have trained their dogs that way they don't feel good about it, and they are not happy about it. And many of them feel guilty about it. And I always tell them that we're going to forget about what happened in the past. We're going to talk about today forward. So if you've trained your dog that way and you don't feel good about it, you need to forgive yourself, ask your dog to forgive you. Today is a new day, and we'll go forward and we'll find a new way to get the results that you want. And hopefully we can do that. Hopefully we can impact the dog's behavior enough to live a good quality of life for the dog and for the people that they live with.
Kind of dive a little bit in your experience as a nurse and your perspective on how dog training or puppy training prevents, dog bites and improves relationship between humans, kids, and dogs. So what's
absolutely does. So what I tell all owners of new puppies or new dogs, training is important for many reasons. It gives you control over your dog. You can make your dog go from this place to this place, but it also teaches a dog that there are boundaries in the world. They learn that I can't do whatever I want. It teaches them cause and effect. If I do this, this will happen. It also teaches them that there are choices to make. I can make this choice or I can make this choice. So a puppy who constantly bites and nips at people, if we help with a training program for that dog and they learn that I'm not supposed to put teeth on human skin, then that will make their life happier, their human's life happier. And it also protects the dog from punishment. And, that's something I'm concerned about, is that if you have a dog who's constantly acting out and the owner's frustrated, they may hurt or punish that dog. It also protects that dog. So for that reason, training is very important. If I have a dog who, when they see another dog, their reaction is to lunge and bark and pull and snap, and I may lose control of that dog, lots of bad things can happen, right? But if I teach that dog, there's another choice for you to make. This choice is to go the other direction. Let's make a U-turn. And at the end of that U-turn, you're going to get treats. That teaches that dog another choice so that we avoid that potential conflict that could have resulted in a lot of bad things happening, a person getting bit, me getting sued. It helps prevent that. So training a dog to ignore people, we have a young dog, we want to socialize them, we want to make sure they're friendly, but dogs also need to learn that they have to ignore other people and other dogs at times. It can avoid interactions. I see a lot of people who want their dog to meet every other dog. I'll be out walking my dog and someone will have a dog. They're like, oh, they can be friends. And I don't want that. My dog and your dog, they may not want to be friends. It may ensue in a dog fight. If I train my dog how to respond in that situation, I can avoid having a dog fight. There's just, training gives you control over your dog in a specific situation to avoid potential conflict and potential problems. That's why training is important. Leash skills, a dog being able to walk nicely on a leash is one of those important things. Being able to ignore other dogs and people and being able to relax in what could be a stimulating environment. Those are the kind of things I want a dog to learn in class. I don't care about knowing how to sit, knowing how to down. I want a dog to know how to stop moving forward so that I can tell it what we're going to do next. That's, what a dog should learn. They don't need to sit at every corner, but they need to stop forward motion so that I have control and I can tell my dog, here's what we're going to do next. You are going to restrict that dog's freedom. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to set up your home so that the dog has controlled space? So you're going to decide, where's the dog going to sleep? Where is the dog going to eat? It may be a crate. It may be an exercise pen. It may be a room behind a gate. Where is that dog going to live? What is the dog's schedule going to be? Because guess what? Baby puppies wake up during the night and have to go to the bathroom, just like baby humans. So I tell people, be prepared. You're going to set your alarm so that you can get up during the night and take the puppy outside. Where's the puppy going to go to the bathroom? Do you live in a home? Do you live in an apartment? Do you live in the city? Do you live in the country? Where's the dog going to go to the bathroom? And what are the supplies that you need? You need things to clean up messes because they will happen. And then I also like to tell people to invest in, there's certain enzyme sprays. If a dog has a potty accident, you clean the area. There's also different products that are deterrents to chewing. I've gone through a lot of that. You spray it on where you don't want the dog to chew. So you're going to do those things. How are you going to make the puppy feel comfortable away from their mother and away from their siblings? What equipment? And then what kind of things are you going to have the dog to chew on because they're teething? So it's not just a matter of they have to have toys. They're a teething puppy and they need to chew to teeth. So what kind of things are you going to have? So those are the kind of things I tell people to think of before they bring the puppy home. And then I tell them, who's your veterinarian going to be? Because sometimes they don't think about that. And where are you going to take your puppy for puppy training? So let's get that set up as well, because that's going to be important to think about. And it's going to be fun. I reassure them it's a lot of work. It's going to be fun.